So it turns out the kid in front of me told the police officers that I was the owner of the Smarties, and even though it did not test positive for any drugs, obviously, I got booked into juvie for 32 days.
I didn't know this story. You
Yeah.
legitimately didn't tell me the story.
I had a lot of fun in there. I met a really lifelong friend, one of the few people I still talk to out of high school. I'm very close to her. I went to her wedding. Met her in juvie, went to her wedding.
Hello everyone, this video is sponsored by my cat. He says go check out my merch store, link in the description.
The kids there had been involved in like stabbings, like stealing, more stabbings. I was in 9th grade. How old are usually people in 9th grade? I was 13. So yeah, oh my gosh, 10 years this year. That was 10 years ago. There was this kid in my class. He was in my homeroom, and I always had a huge crush on him because he was a really good artist. And back in high school, I was actually pretty proud of myself. I was a pretty good artist in high school, and everyone knew me as just like the girl who would just draw. We would draw things on pieces of paper and we'd hand them back and forth with each other, and I always thought that was so cute. And he was just so cool and like mysterious, like I don't know. Anyways, he sat in front of me. We sat right behind the teacher. So the teacher's right here, he's right here, and then I'm right behind him. And he had like a packet of Smarties. And back in junior high, people used to take the Smarties packets and they would crush it up, and then they would inhale it, and then they exhale it to make it look like you're smoking. Smarties always had like that just like kind of joke. You could do fake cigarettes with it. Well, he picked out all the white Smarties, and he took his student ID and he crushed them up. Like he was using the card like how you would like line up Coke. I had my binder on my lap and I was doing homework, and he would like lean over, be like, Peach, Peach, look, look, look. And I was like, kind of like giggling because he was giving me attention, but like I wasn't really doing anything. I had such a big crush on him. Like whenever he would walk by me in the hallways, I would just be like staring at him. I was just happy that he would give me attention. And he just shouted out, does anybody want to snort this Coke? Right behind the teacher. And this kid came from all the other side of the classroom, and he goes, yeah, I'll snort this. And he like leans over to do it. The teacher at the time whipped around, immediately like snagged it out of his hand, and he sent those 2 boys to the principal's office. And I was like, oh no. But I was like, it's just Smarties. Who's gonna get in trouble for that? I wasn't really that worried about him getting sent away. And so I wasn't really worried. The teacher in that classroom was like a really close friend of mine too. I was friends with him. I had like 3 classes with him. I loved him so much. So I wasn't worried about getting in trouble. I go on my day, my next period, a police officer comes in. He came in and was like, can I see peach jars? I was a really good kid in high school. I gave my parents a lot of grief, like a lot of grief. Whenever it came to like being in school and authority figures, I was a really good kid in high school. Everyone was like, oh, she's in trouble, she's in trouble. I knew it had to have been the Smarties, but I was like, no ways it's gonna be like anything. And the principal at the time was one of my mom's closest friends within the school. So I get sent to her office, the police officer closed the door, and she's like, Peach, what happened? I'm like, what? Like, I'm scared, like, I'm shaking. We were talking about this yesterday, how like whenever things happen in high school, that's your whole life. That's so terrifying. I was like vibrating, and she was like, do you have drugs? I was like, no. And I just started bawling immediately because I was like, how, what is happening? How am I in trouble for this? And why do people think I have drugs? So I just started crying my eyes out. And she was very, very kind to me. She was like hugging me. She was like, I'm sorry, but like, I don't know what's happening. Apparently you had drugs. And then the other principal walked in, and he was big and scary, and I did not like him. Like whenever you saw him, that meant like you were in big trouble. And then the security monitor, so not like a police officer, but like the security guard for the school, walked in. So I was in this small office, like a little 13-year-old girl with like 2 principals, security officer, and 2 police officers. I remember clutching on my binder as they tell me that they found Coke on the kid who sits in front of me. He said that I helped him chop it up and put it into the baggie, and that I took turns snorting it with the other kid who got caught. And I'm just like bawling my eyes out. I'm like, no, this is not what happened. Like, that was not me. I would never do that. And the lady who was my mom's friend is like holding me, and she's like, I know you wouldn't do that. I know you wouldn't do that. I was like, please test this, like the Coke. Test it. It's candy. I was telling them, I was like, you can taste it right now, which obviously they weren't gonna do. And so a part of me was really, really scared because I didn't know those 2 guys like super well. What if they actually did Coke? What if there was actually Coke inside of there? So I was scared that was gonna end up happening. I just remember crying my eyes out. And they told me, they were like, right now, we don't know what your punishment is, but the police officers are gonna take you. They didn't handcuff me, which I found was weird because they handcuffed like the other two kids, but I think it was because I was crying so much. They knew like I wasn't gonna do anything because I was just such a small girl. They totally profiled the two guys who did it. And they take me, and I asked to see my parents. I was in there for about like 2 hours. They were just like interrogating me, but it wasn't really that interesting because I just kept on telling them. I was like, this is all that happened. I had nothing else to say. I don't know what y'all are like doing. Like, I didn't do anything, just again, crying. So the police officers take me and they sit me inside of like the security room, which is like where all the cameras are. And they sit me in there for like 30 minutes. But they put me inside of a cop car and they took away my backpack and they searched like my belongings. They took off like my jacket and stuff like that. They had a woman take me back into the security room, pat me down. And then I went back into the cop car and there was just a police officer like sitting in the front seat, just like listening to me cry in the school parking lot, which is really weird. Thank God the windows were tinted because this went on for so long, like school ended up being like let out. And so all the kids were passing by the cop car that I was sitting in, just like crying. The cop eventually takes me back into school and my dad is there and he doesn't say anything. Me and my dad like didn't have the most amazing relationship growing up. He worked a lot. And again, like I gave my parents a lot of grief. And around like my freshman year of high school, I was coming off of like puberty. Puberty was a bad time for me. Bad time. And so he didn't say anything to me and I was scared. Like I had never cried so much in my life. And he takes me in the car and I'll never forget that like drive back home after all that happened. 35 days was my initial sentence. So he took me to Walmart and I was just crying because you have to wear a certain uniform. Like I had never felt just so down about myself. I felt like such a piece of shit. Like I disappointed my parents. And I'll never forget, like, because my dad never really said it. He was like, no matter what, like I'll always love you no matter what you do. And I'm sorry if I tear up because I love my dad so much. And that meant so much to me because I had been so mean to my parents up to that point. Just like hearing that my dad still loved me no matter what I did to him. Like that meant so much to me. And like it would just help me find like brightness in such like a bad situation that I felt like I was so scared of getting jail time. Like I thought I would never go to college or anything like that. Like I was thinking the worst. My dad was just always working so much and like I had no value to money. Like I didn't understand money. So whenever I was like, you're like 5th and 6th grade, like a little bit in your high, I would just steal hundreds upon hundreds of dollars from my dad. And oh my god, I think I stole like thousands and he never really noted. And I didn't really understand the effect of what I was doing. Like, I didn't realize like having $100, that's a lot. I remember my sister like coming to talk to me and she was like, I've never seen dad so mad in my life. And apparently, whenever I was like tucked away into a room or car, I don't know which one, my dad walked into the office and just started yelling at everyone, just cussing everyone out. And I've never heard my dad yell in my life. And so that's the only time I've ever heard about my dad yelling at people. And the fact that he went in there yelling and cussing at everyone, for me, who was like a lying, stealing little bastard of a child, that meant a lot to me, that my parents were still willing to trust me. And the next day, I had put on like the whole outfit. It was a white t-shirt with a tie. Girls had to wear ties. With a black belt, black slacks, and black no brand shoe. There's just this big barbed wire gate. And you just pull up and there's like these guards outside and you hop out of your parents' car and you walk in. They would take us in and they would search you. And they'd pat you down. Then we would just kind of sit in a cafeteria and we weren't allowed to talk to each other. We just have to like stare straight forward and just wait until class started. And that was so scary to me that first day. Oh my god. I felt like I could shit my pants at any moment. I was so scared. I had recognized some people in there from my school and I was like, oh, that's where they went. But then I was like, oh my god, what did these people do? Like, what did these people do? So I had 35 days and I had to do 20 hours community service. I did the 20 hours. I was doing like vacuuming at churches and stuff like that, and I worked at like animal shelters. I remember one of the girls in there, she got caught on a field trip running into a liquor station, grabbing alcohol and then running out. And she was so funny. Like I instantly loved this girl. I was actually really scared of her because she was super popular. And she was just the coolest person to me. I loved her. Like, interacting with her was just one of the funnest things I could do inside of that detention center. I ended up going to her wedding last year, and now and then we really like to like laugh and reflect that we met each other inside of like the detention center. And then there was like other people that I met that got caught for stabbing people, which I don't know why they mixed us with those people, like violent crime to non-violent crime. Oh, what was even weirder was getting used to seeing like kids in like 3rd and 4th grade inside of there. I'll never forget, there was like a kid in 4th grade who had a huge crush on me. And I never found out why he was in there, so it made me even like creeped out because I was like, oh my god, is he gonna like murder me? I got sent to head office because I got caught playing cool math game. I think I got like 3 days added, but then they decided to like take it away. I can't remember why. Around the end, I was having so much fun. All the people I met in there, I can remember their faces so well. But if like I look back on high school in general, I feel like I've forgotten a lot of people that I graduated with. But like that time was just amazing. Like, I mean, not amazing. I mean, I knew I was in there for something bad, but I feel like I made the best out of the situation as I could. And I met so many people that I would consider like close friends. It's not anymore, but I'm still friends with that one girl. I remember someone just walking in being like, Peach, like, come on, let's go. He was like, you're leaving. You don't have to do all this. And I was so heartbroken. Like, I was like, are you sure? I can stay longer. Like, I can finish like the rest of the week. But I wasn't expecting to leave yet. Like, I hadn't said bye to everyone. I remember coming back to school. I had gotten so used to that strict treatment and routine. Like, we were always walking with our hands behind our back, like being searched every morning. We weren't allowed to have cups or utensils or things like that. Like, we used paper utensils like they can't stab people with and things like that. I was really sad. I was really sad for a while. And for a while I was like, I wonder what I could do to go back, but obviously I was smart enough to not want to go back. Looking back on it now, I think thinking about the beginning of it, I was really scared and that was a really emotional time. But once I got used to it, I was really happy. And my grades were really good. There would be like this rumor that if you did something, you would get strip searched and you had to like bend over and cough. So I remember all the girls being terrified. Like, oh my god, don't do that because you're gonna get strip searched. That was the only thing I was glad I didn't have to have that fear of anymore. They did eventually tell me, like, weeks later, they were like, yeah, the Smarties did not test positive. And I was like, of course.
It's sort of scary that they could just basically accuse you and then you're just
Yeah, that's what made me so sad. Is that I felt like I had like my good reputation with all the teachers ruined. And I was taking like an AP English class at the time. And that teacher did not like me. She did not like me at all. Like, oh god, that's another story though. And so she stopped sending schoolwork over to like the detention center to try to get me to fail the class. Because she refused to like give work to like a bad student. And I'm like, that just made me mad because I was like, I'm not a bad student. I'm not a bad person. Like, this was just a huge misunderstanding and I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And it just goes to show, like, things that happen in high school don't matter. As long as you're not committing huge crime. I mean, obviously I wouldn't suggest doing anything questionable. It's just so funny looking back on my whole high school experience and how, like, I thought anything that happened in high school was the end of my life. And I just kind of laugh at it. Whenever I got out, I was really sad about my reputation being ruined. But whenever I explained to people like the story, they're like, "Oh, why were you over there?" I go, "Smarties." And they're like, "Huh?" And then if I explained the story really quick, they'd be like, "Oh." And then word got around that it was the stupidest thing ever. And so for the longest time, people would make me tell this story because it was just so stupid. Nobody could believe that I went over there because it's very rare that a kid goes over there. It only happens whenever you think like you're doing something like pretty intense. And so the fact that I went over there for simply candy, crushed up candy, like people were like pretty shocked.
Like, I still do that dumb to this day as a 22-year-old man, where in the middle of the night I go down and I shake the presents that have my name on it, see what's inside of them.
Really? You are 10 years old. You are 10 years old.
I usually already know what they are, but I still do it anyway.
I made him ask his mom for a knife set this year, so don't shake that one.
Yeah, don't shake those ones.
told you to look at his videos before you came here to get a sense of what he was gonna do. The night I told her to look at your videos, she goes, "I'm too high, I can't."
That's true, I did do that.
I mean,
That
she's
is a good time to watch
honest.
it, probably.
Yeah, she's honest.
We fought all the time because she was always on the internet, so it was like if I had the computer, she wanted it. Like we would fight over like computer time.
Do you want a VR headset now?
No.
I was gonna get you one for Christmas.
Oh, well, you can do that if you want.
Well, not if you don't want it.
I'll accept it. I don't know how.
That's not what I'm not gonna get you a VR headset if you're just gonna say you'd accept it. I was really into Santa, so I'd want to go to sleep.
I just recently started being able to sleep on Christmas Eve, which is like really lame, but it's because now we're adults and we have to do everything. So it's not nearly as fun. We have this antique Christmas village called Putz houses. They're these tiny houses that are like glittery, and they're adorable, and I love them. And when Mom dies, I'm gonna get them, and not you.
Okay, what?
And
I was not gonna fight you over those. I just remembered it just now. You don't have to reiterate Mom dying. She doesn't even use
well, just to
them.
let you know that.
Oh my
when Mom
god!
died-
I feel like
She's laid claim to those.
God. When that dad dies, I claim his house.
Well, that's not fair.
Okay, well, if I was just saying. I mean, if we're claiming things already, I'm just saying.
Well, I get the hot tub.
I don't think I can detach that. My favorite year was, remember, I got the GameCube. I asked Santa for the GameCube,
Oh,
but
yeah, we got a GameCube, but it was both
No,
of ours, but you thought it was
yeah.
yours.
no, I asked for a GameCube because you got a gift from Santa that year, and I was pissed because the note was like, you have to share with your sister, but your note didn't say that you had to share with me. So I was mad. I was mad that I had to share with you because I felt like you got two
Yeah.
gifts from Santa.
That's when we discovered Animal Crossing in all of its glory. Do you have the
Yeah.
GameCube?
Yeah, I still have the GameCube. No, it's mine. Santa gave it to me.